Hiya, folks. How are you? Great to have you with us here. Rush Limbaugh, the most eagerly anticipated radio broadcast and media presentation each and every day in the United States. Appointment radio for over 27 million Americans. And it's great that you are in the group. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. By necessity, we pick up where we left off yesterday. And where we left off yesterday was trying to figure out just what the heck went on in the White House yesterday. There was this remarkable cameras allowed in the room for at least 45 minutes, maybe a full hour, of what turned out to be a meeting on immigration, chaired by Donald Trump, the President of the United States. And the way these things happen, it was in the cabinet room. And there were Republicans in there from the House and Senate, Democrats in there from the House and Senate. By the way, I have done a little research, and it appears, I can't say for certain here, but it appears that everybody in that room is a supporter of amnesty. To one extent or another, every Republican, House and Senate, every Democrat, well, we know the Democrats are all full in on comprehensive immigration reform, which means amnesty for all of them. And many of the Republicans, in fact, most of them were also pro-amnesty, pro-comprehensive immigration reform in that meeting. Now, the way these things normally happen, the attendees take their seats, and the media is permitted in for 5 minutes or so to get pictures that set the stage and show everybody what's going on. And then after some yucks and the media shouting questions at the president, the media is ushered out. Well, that didn't happen yesterday. After the media shouted their usual 5 minutes of yuck questions, Trump began the meeting and didn't kick the media out, did not ask them to leave. And for a while, you could see that several of the attendees weren't quite sure what was going on, because the media is never in these meetings. I don't care who the president is or has been. The media is never in these things. They're always asked to leave after a relatively short time. And so Trump starts the meeting, and the media stays. And one of the most amazing things about it is the media shut up during the whole meeting. The media didn't pipe up, start asking people questions. They were stunned as well. They kept waiting, I'm sure, to be told to scram. Many of them were probably thinking, this idiot Trump has forgotten to kick us out of here. You know they're thinking that. The Democrats are sitting there saying, wait a minute, is this a trap? Or does he not know what he's doing? Is this? And so everybody was very guarded at first in what they said. And then gradually it slowly dawned on everybody that the media wasn't going to be asked to leave. And so people did their best, and this is very, very hard to do. They did their best to just pretend the media wasn't there. Now, I have mentioned a couple of things about President Trump ever since the campaign began. And one of the things I've tried to tell people who Trump is, particularly those who don't understand him and don't want to understand him, that you cannot separate Donald Trump, the person, from Donald Trump, the performer. And some people get this and watch what Trump does accordingly and think it's bad. Because if you are performing, somehow you're not genuine. If you're performing, you have an audience in mind. If you are performing, you are very self-conscious. If you're not performing, you're not self-conscious, and you just be who you are and let the chips fall. And I think Trump was performing yesterday in many ways. Now, there are two takes on this meeting yesterday. And I want to offer both takes. I want to offer both sides and see where you come down on this. Now, one take is that Donald Trump would not suddenly forget who he is in a meeting with House and Senate Democrat Republican leaders. Donald Trump wouldn't all of a sudden forget the source of his political power in any deals made in the area of immigration. Donald Trump could not possibly believe that he could abandon his 3-year position on immigration and still maintain the support of his base. Donald Trump just could not be that obtuse. He could not do that. And therefore, Trump wasn't doing that. What Trump was doing was deftly outmaneuvering the Democrats yesterday and deftly, skillfully outmaneuvering the media. That yesterday's meeting was a televised trap, undermining the Democrats' narrative that Trump is stupid and unstable and unfit. That yesterday's meeting was Trump's idea, in fact, and that it was hatched at the last moment in order to provide a reaction to the allegations being made about Trump and the White House in this idiotic book by Michael Wolff. And so everything that happened yesterday had a performance objective, and that objective was to create as much video, have as much time with Trump chairing a meeting and appearing to be as normal as anybody else in the world is, and as nice, and as open, and as cooperative, and as engaged, and as informed as anybody is on any of these public policy issues, for the express purpose of undermining that book by Michael Wolff. And now with that out of the way, now that Trump has done that, and now that it's out of the way, and now that some in the media are praising it, some in the media, this is the president we always thought we were going to get. We always thought we were going to get this great negotiator. Some on CNN, Wolf Blitzer couldn't contain himself. He was so ecstatic and so happy that Trump allowed the media in for the whole meeting and that he should do it more. And Dana Bash and Gloria Borger, their first reaction was, man, oh man, this is wonderful. This is the kind of president we thought we were going to get. Art of the deal, negotiator, open to all ideas, blah, 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 blah. Everybody took their prejudices into this. I'm talking about into the analysis of it. Everybody put their expectations on the table and then analyzed what happened yesterday according to their expectations and their prejudices. I mean, everybody has prejudicial attitudes about Trump and everybody else. So anyway, Trump does what he does yesterday. This is take one now. There's another take of this coming, so hang on. With that out of the way, Trump can now negotiate from a position of strength because, according to take one, Trump didn't commit himself to anything yesterday. Not really. And after the meeting was over, there wasn't really anything substantively different than when the meeting began. Oh, yeah, Trump said some things about I'll sign whatever you send me, but nobody's going to be sending him anything anytime soon. And besides, Trump can always say, no, I didn't say that. Or, well, yeah, I said it, but I did it to draw you out. I never intended. You really think that nothing really changed other than the perception of Donald Trump yesterday? So after Trump sweeps the Wolf book aside, what are we left with? The economy is booming. The president's made himself a force to be reckoned with. Not only that, but the Democrat collusion with the media, the FBI, the DOJ, too well documented to ignore or deny. And indeed, Dianne Feinstein releasing the testimony from Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS. By the way, a lot of people are asking, why did she do it? Rush, what's the point? I don't get the point. Well, we can get into the nuts and bolts of it, but the primary reason is this. There's still some people who haven't testified yet, folks, including among them Jared Kushner Trump. Jared Kushner. So any of these witnesses who are yet to testify can look at what Simpson said and decide whether they want to corroborate it or not. That's the danger in publicizing testimony of witnesses in closed-door hearings. So now that Simpson's put certain things on the record, regardless what they are, it will affect this, why Grassley's upset. And that's why Feinstein did it. She did it to screw up the rest of the hearings and the rest of the fact-finding. Because the bottom line is this whole Fusion, GPS, Steele, Trump dossier thing is falling apart big time. So now, part of take one is, after the meeting yesterday, we were left with the president is running the show. He is in charge of things. He is in command of things. And the Democrats are out there now playing defense. The defense got roped in. The Democrats got roped in. They thought they were going to be meeting with a blundering dunderhead fool, and they found out just the opposite. Now, I know that there's some drive-by media people say, hey, if this is Trump as a negotiator, then we've been sold the biggest bill of goods in the world because this didn't go well at all. I mean, there's all kinds of people opining on this. But take one is that Trump just hit a grand slam home run yesterday by nuking the Wolf Book in the only way it could have been nuked. And that he got his needs and demands on immigration in public, something that most Americans understand. And because the president does understand the source of his power, meaning he understands why the base that he has voted for him, his role in the Constitution, how to deal with Democrats, Trump is in the driver's seat because he shocked and surprised everybody yesterday. And when you look at America outside that meeting, jobs are going through the roof. More and more corporations are announcing big bonuses because of the tax cut that has been signed into law. Deregulation is happening. The courts have once again, a judge has stopped Trump's DACA move, and this has got people outraged. Trump got it right with ISIS. He got it right with the Paris Accords and climate change. You know, it's getting so bad that Stephen Hawking, this poor man, I honestly don't. This is why we need to redefine smart, which is a recurring theme. Stephen Hawking is reputed to be the most brilliant man in the world. He's a physicist. And he said yesterday that we're headed for a boiling hot planet because we pulled out of the Paris Accords. That we're on the way to becoming Venus. He said, if you want to know what we're headed for, just take a look at Venus. And it's not because of greenhouse gases, primarily. It's because we pulled out of the Paris Accords. The Paris Accords were non-binding on anything. They were just a bunch of phony promises that nations around the world made, committing to reducing greenhouse gases, but they're meaningless because they were just targets. They were not commitments in any way. And yet, according to Hawking, pulling out of that means we're on the verge of a boiling, uninhabitable planet. And this guy is considered the smartest man in the world. And it is just sad. Trump's on the right side of that issue. Right with jobs, right with taxes, right with deregulation, got it right with ISIS, right on pulling out of the Paris Accords. He's in position now to unravel the Iran deal fiasco. And he's not going to cave on immigration. And in fact, let's go back to what I actually said on the fly yesterday afternoon when this thing was all over. Grab audio soundbite number one and hit it. It was a brilliantly conceived and flawlessly executed rebuttal to this stupid Wolf Book. The pictures tell the tale. Trump is in the room, dominating it, controlling it. He is cooperative. He is open. He's tolerant. He's understanding. He's in total command of over 45 minutes of televised meeting on immigration. He is totally informed on the issues. So after you watch this, how would you react to anything in the Wolf Book characterizing Trump as just the opposite of this? And this was the purpose of this today. It was not about immigration. It was to counter the Wolf Book. It was to get rid of it. It was to toss it aside. It was to rebut it. It was to nuke it. It was to dispel it. It was to render it meaningless and to have it seen for what it is, a pack of lies. That is take one. Take two, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump is out of his element. Trump doesn't even know what's on the table in immigration. Trump doesn't even know the issues. If somebody would have signed something yesterday, Donald Trump would have been totally rolled by Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein said, you know what, I want a clean DACA bill, and we come back and do a full-fledged comprehensive reform. And Trump said, I can go for that. And Kevin McCarthy said, no, Mr. President, what she's suggesting here has no wall in it, no security. Take two is that Trump was on the verge of getting rolled yesterday because he really doesn't care about immigration or anything else. All he cares about is being loved and being liked. All he cares about is being seen as in charge and this ace negotiator. Take two says that Trump held a meeting to show that he's in charge and instead demonstrated he doesn't know what he's doing. Demonstrated that he's out of his league. That's Jonathan Chait at New York Magazine. In the hope of proving he's not the semi-literate ignoramus numerous media have depicted him to be, Donald Trump held a televised meeting with members of Congress to discuss immigration. It was the president's own idea. Instead of showing that he's in charge, he instead proved he's clueless and is dangerous. He has fooled practically everybody who voted for him, who believed he meant all of that on the wall and on immigration. And that meeting yesterday proves that Trump doesn't care. He said he will sign anything they send him. That's all he wants to do is sign bills, because in Trump's limited view, that is how presidents are determined as successes or failures, as how much legislation they sign. So Trump just wants something he can sign, and he admitted that. Chatsworth Osborne Jr., Tucker Carlson, Fox News Channel last night. After what I saw on television today, I have to ask President Trump, what was the point of you running? What in the world do you think you're doing? Are you willing to sell out your base on the seminal issue that got you elected that easily? If so, why did you even want to run? Take two continues, but I have to take a break. Tucker Carlson, Fox News last night from his own show. This week continued take two on the Trump meeting yesterday. Congress is full of people from both parties who believe the point of our immigration policy is to provide cheap labor to their donors and to atone for America's imaginary sins against the world. They couldn't care less about immigration's effect on you or your family. These are the same people the president now says he trusts to write the immigration bill, the one he will sign no matter what it says. So what was the point of running for president? Chatsworth wants to know. He then said, you'll remember the president also ran on his skills as a negotiator. And he clearly has skills as a negotiator. But where were they today? And there's more, and it is scathing. Practically accuses Trump of selling out on the issue that will end up destroying the United States as founded. What's your take? Going to present some more details here from Take Two. We have other sources here to share with you, plus the audio sound bites weighing in on this. Aaron Blake at the Washington Post. We got a glimpse at Trump negotiating today, and it didn't go well. It's pretty clear that Trump isn't wedded to his position on anything. Their border wall seems more like an opening bid. If Trump is shown as anything, it's that he just wants to sign bills and make sure the base doesn't hate him for it. So as long as he can plausibly say he fought the good fight for the border wall, even if he didn't, it seems he's ready to just get it over with and claim a legislative win. which is generally okay, but Trump has repeatedly assured us that he knows this stuff better than almost anyone and that he's the world's preeminent negotiator. What we saw yesterday was neither of those things. That's Aaron Blake in the Washington Post. There are other appraisals. Yuval Levin, writing at National Review, was there any progress? Near the end, as Trump finally began to talk about sending the press out of the room, he actually made his malleability explicit. Throughout the meeting, Republicans looking for some leverage for border security measures tried to get Trump to draw some red lines that they could point to and insisted they couldn't pass anything he wouldn't approve of. They were practically begging Trump to say that he had some demands. But in the end, asked by a reporter if something in the course of the discussion had changed his position on anything, Trump said, "My positions are going to be what the people in this room come up with. I'm very much reliant on the people in this room. I know most of the people on both sides. I have a lot of respect for the people on both sides, and what I approve is going to be very much reliant on what the people in this room come to me with. I have great confidence in the people. And if they come to me with things I'm not in love with, I'm going to do it because I respect them. If they come to me with things I'm not in love with, I'm going to do it because I respect them." And then he said he's willing to take the heat for that. He told these people to go out and produce whatever they want, bring it back to him. He'll sign it, and he'll take the heat. The congressional participants in this discussion certainly seemed taken aback by it, even a little stunned at first. Senator Lindsey Graham described the meeting to a reporter as the most fascinating meeting I've been involved with at 20-plus years in politics. And yet, when they step back from what happened in front of the cameras, I think they'll conclude that absolutely no progress whatsoever was made in any direction. This is Yuval Levin. That no matter what was said, nothing changed. There wasn't any progress. There were no concrete ideas presented. In fact, many people have said this thing never got down to the nitty-gritty. This was like a whole meeting of 5-minute openers where nothing specific was ever really touched on, and the president didn't list any requirements or demands. It was a spectacle, but not much more. The reality show character of the Trump presidency makes it hard to know if there's too much going on or too little. So that's your average take from the Never Trumper Quarter in conservative media. Not all of National Review is Never Trumper, but Yuval Levin would have to be, I think, safely put inside that group. And his point was, that was the biggest nothing burger in the world when you get right down to it. Now, that take did not touch on whether or not Trump succeeded in deflecting any of the allegations of the Wolf Book. So let's hit the audio sound bites. We just played for you what I said yesterday immediately after televised coverage of the meeting ended, where I said brilliantly conceived, flawlessly executed rebuttal of the Wolf Book, blah, 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 blah. So right after this program ended yesterday and all night long on cable news, what do you think became the conventional wisdom in the drive-by media?
Was this a show just because Michael Wolff knocked his block off?
They want to counter the Michael Wolff narrative. They wanted to show him as somebody in charge.
It's a great retort from the president to those who say from afar that he is incapable of doing the job.
I think they did it because they were on defense about whether the president was sane or not.
He was clearly trying to overcome the bad press of this Michael Wolff.
Look, he can hold a meeting. He's not crazy. It did show a different picture than Michael Wolff.
Rebutting the narrative we got from this new explosive book.
Pushback to what was in the Wolf Book. It's a perfect way to respond to some of the allegations.
This meeting was a complete repudiation of Michael Wolff's thesis in a single hour.
If you're wondering if pushing aside those concerns was at least partly the point of these on-camera negotiations for the Bill of Love, you're not being cynical. You're being correct.
What that's called, folks, is show prep for the rest of the media. They wait for my take on this stuff in the drive-by. When it comes to Trump, they wait for my take to find out what Trump supporters are going to say about this. They wait for my take, and then they run with it on their own. John King at CNN just moments ago on his program, Inside Politics.
What to make of this conservative revolt? Trump backers are aghast after listening to the president say he would be happy to sign an immigration bill that gives legal status, perhaps even citizenship, to the undocumented.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go on record right now, this is the only thing that Donald Trump can do to possibly derail himself. You know, that happens to be true. It happens. This is the reason he got elected, folks. This is where we're going to lose or keep the country, is illegal immigration. Would you like some stats on this? This is nothing you haven't heard before, but, you know, this story goes in waves and cycles, and it's always dominated by the latest iteration of this story of the day. But I want to go back and remind you of some things. Modern immigration, this is a headline from the Pew Research Center, and this is from September 28th in 2015. So we're going back here. A little bit of a flashback. Modern immigration wave brings 59 million to the United States, driving population growth and change through 2065. Again, this is published on September 28, 2015, 50 years after passage of the landmark law that rewrote U.S. immigration policy. And let me remind you again, from 1921 to 1965, there was no legal immigration in America. You know, every time I mention this, there are people shocked and stunned. People that you would think would know it. But I'm here to tell you, if I had to put a number on this, I'd say 80% of the country does not know this. Immigration was purposely halted for over 40 years. And the reason why is because there had been so much immigration from Western Europe and other parts of the world. Those people arriving had to be assimilated. The United States had an immigration policy from the late 1800s all the way through 1965 that new immigrants had to go through citizenship tests. They had to be assimilated. The thing about that is they wanted to be. The immigrants back then wanted to come to America to escape genuine torment, poverty, tyranny, wherever they lived. They wanted to come be Americans. They were proud when they got here. It was one of the greatest achievements of their lives to legally arrive in the United States, become citizens, and become Americans. And they remained proud of it for the rest of their lives, and their children and grandchildren the same. And it took 40 years to assimilate all of the immigrant arrivals prior to 1921. Modern immigration was kick-started by Senator Kennedy in 1965. And the purpose at the time in 1965 was to provide an ongoing underclass for the Democrat Party. It was a way of broadening the Democrat Party base to an even greater group of people in need, people incapable of providing for themselves, taking care of themselves. And Senator Kennedy and his supporters lied about his bill even back then, promising that cities would not be overrun, promising the crime rate would not change, promising nobody would even notice it. This was just a great humanitarian thing to do. It got so out of control that by 1986, we had to grant amnesty to 3 million illegals, in addition to the people that arrived here legally. That was called Simpson-Mazzoli. And Ronald Reagan signed it with a promise that this is it. We amnestize these 3 million, and from now on, the border's protected and no illegals get, at least we try as hard as we can, and we all know what happened to then. So since 1986 to the present, we have anywhere from 12 to 19 to 30. Nobody really knows how many illegal immigrants in the country. And the Democrat Party today wants to grant amnesty to every damn one of them. And so do many Republicans. And that's what this argument has been about since the early 2000s and the first George W. Bush administration. So in 2015, the Pew Research Center ran some numbers and found that the modern immigration wave since the new law for Senator Kennedy, 1965, 59 million people. Modern immigration wave brings 59 million people to the United States, driving population growth and change through 2065, because those 59 million are going to have kids, and there's chain migration involved. But that 59 million is not the top number. Immigrants and their descendants accounted for 72 million in U.S. population growth from 1965 to 2015. Immigration since 1965 has swelled the nation's foreign-born population from 9.6 million in 1965 to 45 million 3 years ago, which makes this 45 million people. That is the largest movement of people in the history of the world, as Pew goes on to admit in the final paragraph of their story here. And then they write that the U.S. has by far the world's largest immigrant population, holding about 1 in 5 of the world's immigrants. Now, in the midst of all this, we constantly hear from the American left and the Democrat Party how inhumane this country is, how unjust and how immoral this country is. And when people want to get a handle on this illegal immigration, they're called racists and bigots. The population of this country is 310 million, and a full 72 million are foreign-born immigrants, with the bulk of that happening since 1965. And it's still not enough. And the Democrats continue to want more. And they're demanding more. And it's for all kinds of reasons. And included in the reasons is that we owe it to the people of the world because we've so mistreated them. It was a tenet of the Obama administration. The United States was unjust and immoral, that we were a superpower, not because of our own achievements, because of what we stole, what we purloined as we traveled the world, stole people's resources, stole people's ideas, mistreated them because we're racists and bigots and what have you. And so we owe it to the people of the world for what we have done to them. The rest of the people in the world in poverty are in poverty because of us. So they've guilt-tripped the American people since 1965. At the same time, they've led people to believe that our borders are shut and nobody gets in here, and it's grossly unfair, and it's exactly the opposite. This is why Donald Trump was elected, to stop this, because this migration of people who are not assimilating, who are not being forced or asked to assimilate, people arriving here who do not see America the way the early immigrant arrivals of the late 1800s and early 1900s did. This is where we're going to lose our culture. This is where we're going to lose our society. This is where we're going to lose the ingredients present at our founding. And that is precisely why the Democrat Party wants this to happen. And so this is why Donald Trump was elected. And this is why so many people are now panicked over what they saw yesterday. Because the history is Republicans sell out to the left constantly. And it didn't help that Jeb Bush piped up and said, man, this is great. This is great. President Trump was great. I love the fact that he called this an act of love. That was great. That's scared a lot of people. Okay, let's get the president's take on what he did yesterday. We have that, the president cabinet meeting, shortly after the program began, and there was the media for the first 5 minutes of it. They were eventually kicked out. But before they were kicked out, the Trumpster spoke about what happened yesterday.
It was a tremendous meeting. Actually, it was reported as incredibly good. And my performance, some of them called it a performance. I consider it work. But got great reviews by everybody other than 2 networks who were phenomenal for about 2 hours. Then after that, they were called by their bosses and say, oh, wait a minute. And unfortunately, a lot of those anchors sent us letters saying that was one of the greatest meetings they've ever witnessed. And they were great. For about 2 hours, they were phenomenal. And then they went a little bit south on us, but not that bad. It was fun. They probably wish they didn't send us those letters of congratulations, but it was good. I'm sure their ratings were fantastic. They always are. Which is why I think the media will ultimately support Trump in the end, because they're going to say if Trump doesn't win in 3 years, they're all out of business.
Well, there you have it. It was the greatest meeting ever. There's never been a greater meeting, and the media loved it so much they sent him congratulation letters. Congratulations, Mr. President. This is what we expected. This is what we hoped for. This is what we wanted to see from you. Media people sent him congratulation letters, and they were praising for 2 hours, and then their bosses couldn't take any more and made them start ripping Trump. But that's okay. That's okay. They were phenomenal for 2 hours, and they went a little bit south. And now they're probably regretting that they sent Trump the congratulation letters, but that's okay, because all that matters is the ratings were fantastic, and the media learned again that they can't keep their ratings and keep the interest without Trump, which means screw you, Oprah, in 2020. No, I intended to get your phone calls in the first hour, but then we got the Trump soundbite on his take on his meeting yesterday. Congratulation letters from people at 2 networks. I wonder if one of them was Jim Acosta. See, who sent these, I wonder? I'd like to know who sent the 2 congratulation emails to Trump on a great meeting. You know, attaboy, way to go. We knew you could do it. Anyway, your phone calls are coming up, and there's still more to add to all this and the other things out there, too, so we're jammed. Don't go away. Greetings and welcome back. You are tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America, hosted by me, the most provocative host out there, and I don't even try. It's great to have to be. I mean, try to be provocative. Don't misunderstand. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address lrushmo@eibnet.us. I want to stick with some media reaction to this yesterday, because we're going to nail this down. You know, the first hour, take 1, I told you what my take on this is. Even though CNN's misrepresenting it. CNN's putting me in the Chatsworth Osborne Jr. category, where I think Trump sold us out. And that's not what I think happened yesterday. I've been very clear what I think happened. But CNN, eager to make it appear that Trump is losing his base. And so, well, here, grab soundbite 23. This is the most recent one. Again, back to John King's show on CNN. He spoke with their White House correspondent named Abby Phillips about conservative reaction. And by the way, you better get soundbite number 1 handy, because we're probably going to follow this with that. So John King says to Abby Phillips, the White House correspondent, CNN, Ann Coulter, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh, many others saying, whoa, wait a minute. You were our guy on this. You were build the wall anti-amnesty. Little Marco, Jeff is soft. What happened yesterday? Was that a one-day episode of the reality TV show that sometimes the Trump White House, where I need Democrats right now, so I'm going to pretend to be nicer and softer? Which is it? So you see, I've been put in that camp that thinks Trump is selling us out. Well, let me remind you, this is what I said yesterday after I had considered everything. This was my take on it. Audio soundbite number 1. It was a brilliantly conceived and flawlessly executed rebuttal to this stupid wolf book. The pictures tell the tale. Trump is in the room, dominating it, controlling it. He is cooperative. He is open. He's tolerant. He's understanding. He's in total command of over 45 minutes of televised meeting on immigration. He is totally informed on the issues. So after you watch this, how would you react to anything in the Wolf Book characterizing Trump as just the opposite of this? And this was the purpose of this today. It was not about immigration. It was to counter the Wolf Book. It was to get rid of it. It was to toss it aside. It was to rebut it. It was to nuke it. It was to dispel it. It was to render it meaningless and to have it seen for what it is, a pack of lies. And by the way, I should add that a bunch of Trump critics are now very upset with the Wolf Book. Did you know this? Oh, yeah. A bunch of never-Trumpers think the Wolf Book is hurting their cause because Wolf is so off the wall, lying through his teeth and wrong about so many things and appears to not care that he's wrong. All he wants to do is sell books and get famous, and that's happening. The true never-Trumpers think that he's damaging their cause, that the Trump critics are getting more and more stupid. It's delightful. Okay, so there's my take. John King asks the CNN White House correspondent, Ann Coulter, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh, many others saying, whoa, wait a minute. What happened to you on us yesterday? And here's her take on it.
I think it was one day of the episode of the Trump reality show, because frankly, what happens behind the scenes is going to be different from what we just saw in that room.
Bingo!
And there's another element of this that I think is constantly being revised and debated inside the White House, which is, at what point does Trump start dealing with his problem with independence? At what point does he acknowledge his base and try to keep them as happy as he can, but also start dealing with the middle?
All right. Now, up until she got into that area, I was going to heap praise on a CNN info babe for having proper perception. The first half of the soundbite, folks, she's right on the money. She instinctively apparently understands that, hey, this was, and if you doubt it, we're going to play Trump's opinion of what he did yesterday in just a minute. Replay that for you. But she correctly identified that this is just one of many such events like this, and what happens behind the scenes is going to be far different than what happened on camera yesterday. Far different from what we saw in that room. And there she's right. But then she veers off. This is where these people, in my humble estimation, go wrong in trying to analyze Trump. Then she veers off into, when is Trump going to end the White House? At what point they start dealing with his problems with independence? And there they are, plugging Trump into their holes, into their system, into the way they look at an electorate, in the way they look at campaigning. Okay, you've got to have a message for your base and hold your base, but then you got to be able to get out there and get the independent. This is why Republicans have foolishly always claimed to be for comprehensive immigration reform, because they believe they can say one thing to keep their base intact and then go out and say something a little bit different that supposedly is going to dazzle independents, or in this case Hispanics, and cause them to vote Republican. And it's entirely wrong, because you end up being who you're not. When you start tailoring your message to your audience, it's over. I don't care if you're a public speaker. I don't care if you're in politics. It's over. You have to be who you are, and you have to be persuasive. You have to tell people what you believe and bring them to your side of things, rather than pander to them. But you see, the drive-bys think, oh, Trump's got to hold his base. But when are they going to figure out what they got to do to independence? That's not for another 3 years, for crying out loud. The simple answer to this, if Trump wants to get reelected, do the agenda. If Republicans want to get reelected with him, do the agenda. Just keep moving the agenda. And if it takes fooling the Democrats along the way, all the better. Just keep moving the agenda. This is not complicated, and it's not rocket science. The people involved in this want you to think it is, so that you don't think you're qualified to get involved and talk about it. But it isn't that complicated. Trump has demonstrated how you attract a crowd and hold it. Trump has demonstrated how you create a bond between yourself, whether you're a reality TV show star, whether you're a president, a politician, how you create that bond and how you hold it. And Trump, his people weren't doing a bunch of calculations. Okay, I'm going to say this about Mexicans to get that group. I'm going to say this about Oprah to get that group. I'm going to say this about Rosie to get that group. That's not how Trump was acting during the campaign. So what are we going to do about independent? Totally missing the point of Trump anyway. And again, living in this area where they admit they don't understand even now why Trump won and what he's going to have to do to get reelected. Here's Trump again at this, folks. Well, let me play it again, and you analyze it yourself. This is just moments ago before a cabinet meeting, before the press was kicked out, and it's the president reviewing his immigration meeting yesterday, most of which was televised.
It was a tremendous meeting. Actually, it was reported as incredibly good. And my performance, some of them called it a performance. I consider it work, but got great reviews by everybody other than two networks who were phenomenal for about 2 hours. Then after that, they were called by their bosses and say, oh, wait a minute. And unfortunately, a lot of those anchors sent us letters saying that was one of the greatest meetings they've ever witnessed. And they were great. For about 2 hours, they were phenomenal. And then they went a little bit south on us, but not that bad. It was fun. They probably wish they didn't send us those letters of congratulations, but it was good. I'm sure their ratings were fantastic. They always are. Which is why I think the media will ultimately support Trump in the end, because they're going to say if Trump doesn't win in 3 years, they're all out of business.
Okay, there's Trump talking about his meeting yesterday. Now, the rest of us talking about it are down deep in the weeds of the policy. And we're analyzing what Dianne Feinstein said. We're analyzing what Trump said and didn't say. We're analyzing how Trump behaved and how Trump reacted. We're analyzing the Republicans. We're down there in the weeds, folks. We are examining this. And what's Trump's take? Well, it was a performance. Mission accomplished. Got some congratulatory letters from... What do you think that's about? I can tell you, if those letters actually were sent, you know what it was? I will guarantee you that if those letters were sent, it was an applause for opening the meeting to cameras and a request to keep doing it. And they might have, in order to secure that, they might have praised Trump. You're the best president ever. We knew you had it in you. You should keep doing this. But the letters were primarily, I'm surmising here. I, of course, don't know because I'm no closer to the White House than where I am here in Florida. But I'm just guessing if those drive-bys sent those letters, it's a request to keep doing this, with some flattery thrown in. But Trump correctly noted that after about 2 hours, the drive-bys started going south on him because they realized what had happened. See, they can't help but analyze Trump, and most everybody else did too, except for me. They analyzed Trump within their universe. Every day they plugged Trump into the way the establishment works, the way Washington works, the way things happen. And you can't do that. So Trump's review of the meeting yesterday was how much the media loved it. He didn't say a word about immigration or the future or DACA or any of that. He didn't say what anybody would expect him to say. Well, it was a good start. I think we laid some good groundwork. They know where I'm coming from. I heard what they want to do, and we got a great bit to move forward from. None of that. Hey, it was great. The ratings are no doubt through the roof. They sent me congratulatory notes, and they know they need Trump. So given all that, I still ask you, what's your take? Your calls are coming up. There's one more Trump bite here. Following that little bit that we just played, he continued.
We agreed to pursue 4 major areas yesterday of reform. Securing our border, including, of course, the wall, which has always been included, never changed. Ending chain migration, canceling the visa lottery, and addressing the status of the DACA population. We want to see something happen with DACA.
Okay, folks, I have to tell you that you ask anybody else in that meeting yesterday, and none of that was agreed to. In fact, I have looked at some of the critics, both left and right, of Trump, and they're mad that he appeared to cave on the wall. They're mad that he didn't say anything about chain migration in the meeting yesterday. They're mad that he didn't say anything about the visa lottery. And yet here's Trump's review. We agreed to pursue 4 major areas of reform. The wall, and that's never changed, ending chain migration, canceling the visa lottery, and addressing... You go ask Dianne Feinstein if she thought any of that happened yesterday, and I guarantee you she's going to say, I don't know. I was illegally releasing some testimony. Well, I don't remember hearing any of that. And if you go ask Dick Turbin, you go ask Steny Hoyer, what? We didn't agree to chain migration. We didn't agree to the wall. We didn't agree to his visa bill. What is he talking about? This is why my take on this, I think, is unassailably correct. We'll take a break, and your phone calls on this are coming up right after, so don't go away. Welcome back, my friends. Rush Limbaugh, in all 4 corners of the world, a household name. Here's Robin, Highland, California. Great to have you. Really glad you waited. I appreciate your patience. How are you?
Great. It's really good to talk to you, and you are my savior every day to make me in a happy mood.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm able to do that.
Yes, you do. You are what helps me get through the day. I was so upset yesterday with this whole thing, and last night I was just livid. But when I first heard like CNN bashing them saying, oh, this is the president we've been waiting for, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope they aren't playing this on him because he's so desperate for everybody to like him. And if he only knows that they'll never like him, no matter what he does, they will not like him.
I've told him that. Robin, I've told him that on 2 separate occasions. But like everybody else that talks to him, I don't know if he heard me.
Oh, gosh, I hope he does.
I don't know if he was listening. I mean, he was looking right at me when I said it, but I don't know if it registered.
Oh, I worry about that.
But about Dana Bash, we've got the soundbite. Do you really think she means that? This is the president we've been looking for? This is the president we were hoping for? Do you think she even means that?
Well, that's what worried me, because I know she didn't mean it. And that's why I thought, why is she saying this? Are they turning the pages on him, to make him think that? So
well, the reason I can think that she might have said it is because this is what they've been trying to force him to become with all the criticism and all the pressure. They want to her, if she watched that and saw Donald Trump totally caving and abandoning what got him elected, to her, that's a major, major success. And this is the president we were looking for, because as far as Dana Bash is concerned, I guarantee you, what she saw was Trump giving away the store to the Democrats yesterday.
Yes.
That's what had you upset, right?
Yes. Oh, very upset, yes.
So now how are you? Where are you now on this, now that you've had...
like I said, you've talked me down, because this is what I can't now wait for your show every day to... I haven't been listening that long. I started listening to you right before the election, and you were my lifesaver, because I cannot watch the news. I can't even watch my local news anymore. Because
I can't either. I can't either.
Awful.
I hear you on that.
Awful.
Oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely. Not even a weather forecast is legitimate.
That's about it.
Every
That's
weather forecast is climate change is destroying us. It just, yeah.
Oh, it's awful. But thank you so much, Rush. Like I said, you are my pick-me-up every day. You put everything in a different perspective, and I need that. I really do.
Well, thank you. Now, you probably heard me play the soundbite of President Trump himself.
Yes.
Right before the cabinet meeting, and his take on what happened yesterday. Do you get the impression... Let me not lead you. What did you think when you heard the president's remarks, the review of his meeting yesterday?
No, I loved it, because he's not harping on that. He's not on that. I get that. The more I thought about it this morning, like I said, listening to you and listening, just reading other things, I'm like, okay, this is not what he's doing. He was not caving yesterday, and boy, was I worried. I was very worried that he was caving on us. And this is the thing that got him elected over everything else, over the economy, I believe, over everything, was this immigration thing. And I would be petrified if he caved. He would lose me, and I'm a very big, supporter.
Right, and
of his.
I have to think that he knows that he's not stupid by any stretch. Robin, thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate your thoughts and the fact that you're in the audience and that you found us. And feel free to call anytime. Moving on, Robin, Omaha. You're next, sir. Hi.
Hey, this was great. It's almost like a late Christmas.
Wow.
Hey, real quick, I know you got other people holding my take on it was it reminded me of The Apprentice. He set everybody down and basically said, this is what you're going to do. And in this case, of course, it's the immigration reform. And I thought it was kind of funny when they kept pressing, do you want us to do this or would you do this? And he's like, no, I'm going to own it. I think he's kind of putting it back on not just the Republicans and the Democrats, because everybody knows what got him elected. And he's not going to change that. I don't think he has to go back and repeat it. It was, I guess, when he said that he would sign whatever, it kind of, first thing I thought was, man, I don't know if I like that. And then I thought, it's almost like he's taking the training wheels off. We've been talking about it. We know it's midterm elections. You know what my base is. You know what got me elected. You know what I'm about. I can own whatever you send to me, but the question is, can you? If you have something that's not going to appeal to the Republican base, then that's on you. I don't know if he would have done this 6 months ago, because that was before I think the Republicans really got a taste for victory like they did for the tax reform.
Hey, look, let me, Rob. I'm running out of time. I have to take a break, but I'm gathering that you think that this was like The Apprentice. Yes, I never watched it. I've never seen an episode of The Apprentice. And, those who have seen it are agreeing with that. So there you go. It was The Apprentice, Rob thinks. Welcome back. Happy to have you here, El Rushbo, behind the golden EIB microphone. Let's talk about the art of negotiation. There have been many, among them Chatsworth Osborne Jr., our affectionate name here for Tucker Carlson, claiming that this yesterday was an abomination. It was horrible negotiation. There was no sign that Trump knows what he's doing. All this art of the deal stuff, where was it? Aaron Blake in the Washington Post, that was horrible. I mean, if this was it, this is nothing. We would sold a bill of goods. A lot of people think that Trump was a buffoon yesterday. But I want to remind you of something that I know nobody remembers. New York Times, September 13th, 2017. Pelosi and Schumer say they have a deal with Trump to replace DACA. That's last September. We are now in early January. Well, if Pelosi and Schumer thought they had a deal with Trump last September to replace DACA, then why is it still an issue? What happened there? Remember a couple months ago when Trump met with Pelosi and Schumer, Chuck and Nancy? And they said that Trump had agreed to a deal on amnesty for the Dreamers. This is this September thing. Where is it? They clearly think he told them. They're out there telling everybody in the New York Times that, yeah, we got a deal. Trump says he's going to have a deal with us on DACA, the Dreamers and so forth. But where is it? Is Trump lying to them? Maybe. Is Trump misleading them? Maybe. In a negotiation, there's no law that says you have to be truthful. How many of you people have been involved in one of the greatest negotiation techniques in the world? Let's say that you're the boss and you have an employee that you think needs to be given a raise or maybe even put on contract. And you're willing to pay a lot, but the last thing you want is for the employee to know it. It's enough of a concession that you're reaching out and trying to make a deal. So in a circumstance like that where you think you may be on the verge of losing any leverage because you're having to express interest in this, how do you get the leverage back? Well, there are all kinds of ways of doing it. You reach out and you get things started, and then at some point act like you don't know what's going on. The guy shows up for the next negotiation session, and you say, why are you here? Well, we had a meeting agreed. No, we don't. I don't have anything on my calendar. Why are you here? And the employee says, we had it. No, Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. The employee leaves. You simply lie. You simply say, no, we don't have a deal. We don't have a meeting scheduled here. So the employee leaves. What the hell is going on? And in that one little moment here, if there is any leverage perceived on the part of the employee, doubt starts creeping in. Can I respect this guy? Can I trust what this guy tells me? Is this guy serious? All kinds of things. So here's Trump. How many times have Nancy and Chuck think they've had a DACA deal with this guy since last September? And what did he do yesterday? I'll sign anything you send me. I'll take the heat. And they're taking him literally. And I'm telling you, it's the worst thing anybody can do. It's the biggest mistake you can do is take Trump literally in this stuff. I'll sign anything you send me. What if Trump knows that they're not going to be sending him anything? What if he knows the Republicans in the House and Senate are not going to agree on anything without him being involved? That would be something he would sign in the first place. Folks, I'm telling you, if you look at that meeting yesterday and everything about it, the fact it was televised first time ever, that meeting was not about what everybody in it thought it was about. That meeting was not about immigration, because even some of the critics last night, after they analyzed this, finally figured out there wasn't one concrete thing said in that meeting yesterday by Trump on the substance of immigration. Yeah, I'll sign whatever you send me. He can always say, I'm not signing that. Just like you can always say, no, I didn't have a meeting on my calendar with you today. What are you doing showing up? Negotiate with? No, nothing with you. I'm not signing that. That's absurd. There's no wall in it. He made it clear that it's got to have a wall. He's made it clear there's got to be security in it. But aside from that, and yet all of these critics are continuing to look at this in the only way they know how, and that is the way it's always been done. And Trump doesn't know the way it's always been done the way they do it. He knows the way it's always been done the way he does it. But there was panic. People were taking it literally yesterday, and there was some genuine fear. Oh, my God, he's selling us out. Oh, my God, this guy's been beat up so much. He just wants a little love and so forth. Many people on our side, I wouldn't blame them if they felt a little sold out. But if you go back and look, there wasn't anything really concrete that was pledged. I mean, in reality, almost every participant left that meeting wishing Trump had listed some demands, wishing Trump had put himself on the record as things he wants. He didn't. He left it totally up to them. Sign whatever you send me, while looking cooperative and engaged and understanding and appreciative. Yeah, even suggesting if they want to bring back earmarks to themselves, it might be time for that. Gloria in Gig Harbor, Washington, as we stay with the phones. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Good.
Thank you for taking my call. I'll get right to the point. I want to comment on his leadership, which seems to be under fire. I heard on the radio, he had this meeting, he invited the legislators, and he asked them what they wanted in this DACA thing, or this immigration issue. And he told them that the one thing that he was going to have was the wall, because he's the president, and the role of the president is national security, and that's what the wall is about. The president is over the military and over foreign affairs, and this wall will help keep us safe. Everything else, the DACA, that's up to the legislator. That's their job, and he honored them by giving them their job to do. Instead of usurping it all and deciding everything, he gave them their job to do, and they should rejoice and get to work and do it and bring them a bill for him to sign. He said he would be willing to. I need the wall.
He's such a great guy. He just wants the wall, and they can do everything else because he's being totally deferential to these brilliant people in the Senate and the House. And he was exhibiting leadership. He was not domineering. He was not dominating. He was not telling them what to do. They can do whatever they want. They'll sign it as long as there's a wall in it. This was... I love doing this. The takes that people have on this fascinate me, folks. As you know, I'm fascinated by people who think and the way they... I don't care what it is. Thinking doesn't happen much anymore, and that's why I'm so receptive to hearing it. I appreciate that, Gloria. Thank you very much. Do we have time to squeeze? Let's not. I don't want to give myself time constraints on the other side. So here's a break, and we'll be back. Don't go away. Okay, we're going to spend the rest of the hour on this, but when we get to the next hour, there are other things out there that I would be remiss if I didn't touch on, and they are things I want to touch on as well. But there have been people calling and are on hold who want to weigh in on this, meaning the Trump meeting yesterday and what it means. One little ditty here from thehill.com. Democrats skeptical of DACA deal framework. Democrat leaders facing swift pushback over the parameters of a potential immigration deal hours after Trump and lawmakers appeared to agree on the broad framework. Some Democrat lawmakers are pushing back on including changes to chain migration, which allows citizens and permanent residents to sponsor family. We know what it is, and it's got to end. Now, thehill.com here and the rest of the drive-bys, they're always trying to make chain migration sound so innocuous. It isn't. It's the primary thing after just the illegal immigration border crossing itself that's got to be stopped. It's what allows green card holders to sponsor family members. Anyway, the point is, Democrats skeptical of DACA deal framework. So you had people in there thinking that Trump agreed to a deal on DACA, but, Feinstein's, hey, let's have a clean DACA bill. I can go with that. I'm telling you, there was nothing concrete agreed to yesterday. That meeting, do not doubt me, that meeting was not about anything concrete, binding or otherwise, on immigration. Here is Anna in Raleigh, North Carolina. Great to have you with us. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, Mr. Limbaugh. It is a true pleasure and honor to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure.
And I wanted to say also, Robin mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to thank you for keeping us enlightened and focused last year before the election. I listened every day just to get my hopes up and to stay positive. And
well, I'm just going to tell you, I don't think that there is anybody in media who understands Trump better or even as I do.
I think you're right.
I don't think
you're right, sir. But I wanted to comment that the president, and I am 120% behind him. I'm an avid supporter. He did sound very much like The Apprentice yesterday. And that, sir, for me would be if he does not do regarding immigration as he campaigned on, that would be the one deal breaker for me.
He's got to know that. Don't doubt that he knows that.
The reason I'm very passionate about immigration, I'm a naturalized citizen. I came here as a child from Cuba with my parents. They lost everything. My father had a business. It was taken away. All of their worldly possessions were left behind. They came with nothing, but had so much respect and regard for this country.
And you followed the rules.
That's right, sir. That's my point. My parents absolutely wanted to do the right thing and go through the channels, the paperwork. It took years, but they did that. We became citizens. I love this country beyond measure, and it's really difficult to see what's been happening lately, especially, as I said, with immigration. That's very near and dear to me.
Well, what's happening is the Democrat Party is seeking future voters. It's no more complicated than that. It's no more complicated than the Democrat Party requires. If they are to win and stay in power, they need a permanent underclass. Folks, stop and think about that for just a second. Now, I know that some of you in the audience are liberal Democrats and you're listening here for whatever reasons. And I know when you hear me say that, you think that I'm just trying to draw attention, that I may be saying something I think is a little extreme just to say it. And I want to assure you here that I am not exaggerating at all, and I'm not trying to be provocative with that. I'm trying, well, I am being honest, and I'm trying to persuade people that that is who or what the Democrat Party is. Just stop and think of it for a moment. We have a political party that essentially seeks, desires, needs people essentially in poverty in order to remain in power. Now, how does a party like that structures its existence that way, that seeks to maintain power that way, how does a party like that create economic growth? How does a party like that stand behind the concepts of individual liberty and freedom? A party that is threatened by self-reliance, a party that's future and power base is threatened by people being upwardly mobile and no longer needing as much government. Stop and think about how in the world can that be advisable? How can that be desirable? How can that be helpful? How can that, I mean, even if you think that those people are the most compassionate and the most understanding and they're fair and they don't discriminate against gays and lesbians and transgenders and whatever else, you know, the social justice warriors care about. Stop, throw all that stuff out. What in the world is it about a party that recommends itself which needs a permanent underclass in order to win elections and stay in power? And in order to get that underclass, will do what they can to stymie economic growth, like demanding an increase in the minimum wage, which causes job loss. High unemployment is a favorable circumstance for the Democrat Party. People unable to access health insurance and health care is good policy-wise for the Democrat Party. A party that is willing to subvert existing law and allow open borders so that the poor of the world can come here unchallenged and be taken care of by Democrats so that they will be assured to register and vote Democrat. What does it mean for the rest of the country if that is the primary objective of the Democrat Party? I know some of you are saying, wait a minute, Rush, there are rich people. Yeah, that's true. And the Democrats take care of their rich. They take care of them really well. And they make sure that their rich never have to interact with any of these illegal immigrants. Democrat elites don't live where these people end up living. I think it's hideous. I think it's insidious that we have a political party that defines, that needs for its power and success, a constant group, growing group of people essentially in poverty. Fastest 3 hours in media. Proof 2 of them are already over. Only one more to go. And as I say, we're going to move on to other areas. But if you want to continue to weigh in on this on the phones, have at it, folks. Fine with me. A brief time out here to make some obscene profits, and then we'll be right back. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. I am America's real anchorman. and America's truth detector, and also popularly known as the Doctor of Democracy. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Limbaugh Institute. Great to have you here. Telephone number if you want to be on the big program, 800-282-2882. By the way, I meant to announce this at the top of the program, but, I never make things about me. We have a brand new app. We've revised the app, the RushLimbaugh.com app for your iPhone, your iPad. Now, I'm a little, I don't know if our Android version of this is ready to go. I think it is. But I know the iOS version is ready to go. We have redesigned the app, and we have made it a coordinated appearance and look with the RushLimbaugh.com website. And it's for members and non-members, even if you're not a member of the website. The app still offers plenty of access to much of what happens here on the EIB network. If you are a member, then you can watch the Ditto Cam on demand on the Rush Limbaugh app on your phone or your iPad. You can watch past versions of the program on the Ditto Cam. You can listen live via audio streaming, or you can listen to previous programs if you wish. You can sign up for the podcast delivery of the program each and every day. Full-fledged content. We've redesigned the app icon. We have redesigned the entire look of the app. And we have, of course, coordinated its appearance and its design with our recent change at RushLimbaugh.com. There is even members have access to a direct email account from the app. If you want to send email to us here, when we get email from the app, it actually says from the app on our email that we receive. We have that programmed in. We've written it in, coded, so that we can see that email is actually coming from the app. What, do we give that preference? Well, I would never say that, but I mean, it's just that we are able to recognize it. But it's a lot of people have worked on this. Apple approved this app, I think, late last week, and we've been putting our final touches on it. And it actually launched this morning. Now, if you're an existing member, the app ought to upgrade automatically for you. But if you haven't yet, and the app is free, it has what's called an in-app purchase, and that is if you want to become a subscriber to RushLimbaugh.com, you can do that from within the app as well. But, I mean, the benefits of immediacy in terms of being able to stream the program right through the app or watch the Ditto Cam right through the app on your phone, on your device, or what have you. And, of course, the total mobility that comes with it. It's awesome. We are proud of it. And, I'm a huge tech guy, and I had a lot of demands on this in terms of the design and the ease and I wanted to make it intuitive. I didn't want it to be a giant maze that you had to scroll and hunt and peck to find out what you're looking for. And so we've tried to simplify it and make it, much, much more intuitive, I think is the word for it. So you can get it at the iOS App Store, right on your phone. And I'm going to have to double check. I've gotten some confusing notes on the Android version. I was able to check the Android version, but I don't yet know if it's actually deployed yet or if it's coming. But I'll find out for certain. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the subject of net neutrality, as you know, is something that is highly interesting to me. And I know a lot of people, it remains this big gray area of confusion. What is it? What does it matter? How have I been affected by net neutrality or no net neutrality? This is one of the aspects of it that is beneficial to the left, is that it seems innocuous and uninteresting and irrelevant. So what's the big deal? And we've been through various stages of definition and explanation over the recent months on this. As you know, you may not know, but prior to 2015, there was nothing called net neutrality. The Internet was wide open up until 2015. And by wide open, it wasn't regulated by the government. It wasn't regulated by the FCC. The FCC regulates radio, television, cell phones. The government pretty much regulates anything to do with communications, but direct regulatory control over the internet itself did not exist. And there isn't a soul out there that will complain about the way the internet was up until 2015. Well, that's not true. There are always whiners and moaners. But the fact that it was unregulated is why it grew so fast. It's why so much is there. It's why you can find anything you want on the internet. You can find any information, countless sources. It's burgeoning and it's growing, and the fact that it's unregulated has been a benefit to everybody. Well, liberals don't like things that attract a lot of people that are not regulated. Liberals want the government in charge of everything. They want the government to be able to punish their enemies with regulation of whatever industry or behavior or what have you. Liberals bring to their daily existence a very anti-corporate bias. And so they want the government to regulate against corporations just to be able to do it. So Obama and his administration, the FCC, in 2015 declared the imposition, they're going to impose net neutrality. And, of course, nothing has been more incorrectly named than net neutrality. The premise behind net neutrality was the internet was a mess. The premise was it was unfair. The premise was the big guys had all the benefits. The rich had more access than the poor and the middle class. And there was nobody looking out for the little guy on the internet. The little guy, like always, was getting the shaft. The little guy was being mistreated. The little guy was being overcharged. The little guy was being throttled. The little guy was just basically being screwed by Comcast, by AT&T, by DirecTV, by any of the providers. They're all universally hated and despised by the tech journalism community. But the Obama administration said, this is great. And what they claimed was that net neutrality was needed because it was unfair that there were more conservative websites than liberal, or that the conservative sites were more popular. That was deemed to be unfair. You know how they go after Fox News, and you know how they go after talk radio, claiming that we're unbalanced here, or that it's just not right. They own all the rest of the media. They own everything in TV except Fox News, and they can't wait to get their hands on it, to neuter it, or better yet, to eliminate it and wipe it out. Been trying to do the same thing with talk radio. So their objective with net neutrality long term was to be able to have the government determine which sites were being visited more often than others, and to somehow put limits on the popular conservative. Now, this was never stated this way. It was never promised this way, but there's no other reason why Obama and his people would want control of the internet other than to control and to regulate the content. The way they sold it to people was to say they were going to protect the little guy against predatory pricing by providers, internet service providers, telecoms like Comcast or Verizon. They're going to make sure that the little guy didn't get the shaft. So for 2 years, we had the beginnings of net neutrality, which really did nothing more than regulate the internet as a common utility. Like your power company, like the phone company, it put the government in charge of regulating any aspect of the internet that they wanted. When Trump was elected, Ajit Pai, who was an FCC commissioner, was named chairman. And the first thing he did was announce an end to this so-called net neutrality, because it's not neutral at all. There's nothing neutral about net neutrality. Neutral would be no regulation whatsoever. The market works. The sites that succeed are the sites that are best and the most attractive and offer the best deals, like anything else in the free market. The left doesn't trust the free market, don't like the free market. They want controls. So Pi came in and said, it's silly to regulate something this new and this modern, that's this great, that is growing this fast, that's creating this kind of economic boom and wealth. Why regulate this the same way we've been regulating utilities since 1934? 1934 regulatory schemes have been the regulatory climate over the internet for the past 2 years. Trump and his FCC chairman decided to get rid of them, and the left went nuts. They absolutely went nuts. They started protests all over the country. They showed up at Ajit Pai's house. They were threatening his life and threatening his kids. He was supposed to speak this week in Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. He canceled it because of death threats that he's been getting. All over deregulating the internet. Deregulating it, which is good for everybody. It's the epitome of freedom. Now, there's much more to this than what I have. I mean, it gets in the weeds. I could take it as deep in the weeds as I want to. But one thing to keep in mind is that from the Obama administration and that kind of thinking, from their perspective, the real value in regulating the internet was down the road being able to regulate content and being able to make sure that no equivalent of conservative talk radio happened on the internet like it did on radio, and making sure that no internet version of Fox News happened on the internet like it did in cable news. That was the ultimate purpose. But this was never stated. You would only know this if you know Obama and if you know liberals and if you listen to them and how much they hate talk radio now and hate Fox News. And if they could wipe them both out, they would. And they wanted control of the internet to be able to prevent this kind of dominance should it pop up and happen. The way they got so many people to support it was to really disguise net neutrality as making sure your Netflix wasn't throttled and to make sure that Netflix was always able to provide you with the proper speed so that you could watch without buffering. They always positioned this to millennial consumers as the only way to make sure that what they were paying per month to Netflix and HBO Now and whatever else would provide them the guaranteed data stream they need to be able to watch this stuff and to prevent those companies from throttling them or overcharging them or what have you. So it was earlier this week, our friend Jonah Goldberg at National Review submitted a piece at the National Review Online Corner, which is their blog post. And his piece was rooted in he didn't understand why all this tumult over net neutrality. He couldn't understand why. I mean, to him, this is an issue that is not even worth a couple of seconds of your time. And he couldn't understand why the guy taking net neutrality regulations away was having his life threatened, or why his kids were being threatened. He wrote, the thing I still don't really understand is why the topic of net neutrality arouses this kind of passion in the first place. I can understand why troubled individuals in a state of crisis, say stricken by cancer, or parents of sick kids in need of some experimental treatment would go to such lengths to harass the head of the FDA. But the FCC? I mean, I could see, although not condone, someone threatening to murder an official's family if they believed it would save their child's life. But contemplating murder to prevent a phone company from charging less to bundle Netflix with your subscription, that's just bizarre. By the way, that's written correctly. When you eliminate these Title II regulations in 1934, internet prices would actually get cheaper, and the pro-net neutrality people don't like that. It's a convoluted thing. But Jonah's right when he says contemplating murder of the FCC chairman to prevent a phone company from charging less to bundle Netflix with their subscription is just bizarre. He says, we hear a lot about how Donald Trump's rhetoric encourages incivility, bigotry, and even violence. It seems to me the press has done a terrible job holding politicians and activists to account for letting an obscure argument about internet policy lead to such insanity. And so he doesn't understand why everybody's so exercised by this. And I want to try to tell him why, and all the rest of you. Because it is a curiosity. I mean, these people were literally threatening the lives of Ajit Pai and his family over 1934-era regulations being removed from the internet. I think there are a lot of factors here in understanding it, and all of them trace right back to liberalism. I hate to sound like a broken record on this. But when we're talking, the people doing this protesting, the people making these threats, the people going crazy over this, they're primarily, I'd say 95% of them are millennial. And to millennials, the internet is their air and water. Their devices, their screens is their air and water. They cannot do without it. I'm not even talking about addiction. I'm not even referencing that. I'm just talking about as a cultural existence. You know how important air and water are to you. What if somebody came along and wanted, in your mind, started regulating the amount of air you could breathe every day, and you had to pay more once you'd reached your quota? That's how these people are looking at it. But the question is why? Why has the internet become the equivalent of life-sustaining organisms to them? And why is there such hatred for people that do business on the internet? And the answer to this is traceable back. Who is it that has been raising these kids, these millennials, and educating them? And what have they been taught as they've grown up? The Democrat Party enemies list is corporate America. I mean, there are many enemies on it, but at the top of the list is corporate America. These young kids have grown up being told to hate major corporations, industries, entire industries, to distrust them, that they're out to make their customers sick, that they're out to kill their customers in the cases of drug companies. I'm up again. I got to take a break here, but I want to get to the nub of this because it's a crucial element to understanding and a part of the culture here that's losing its mind. They truly believe that internet service providers and telecoms want to charge them more than they can afford, and that they will lose access to the internet unless the government is regulating these businesses and keeping them honest. They live in a mortal fear that the internet will somehow vanish from their control. They almost feel, these millennial leftists feel like the internet, they have an entitlement to running it and organizing it and policing it and so forth. And that was what net neutrality was. That was their buddies, the Obama administration, American leftists, regulating and running the internet under the auspices of protecting it for the little guy and punishing it. Look, it's just nothing but liberalism. Punish the successful, punish corporate America, treat them as the enemy, and so forth, and a total fear and distrust of free and open markets. But, and I don't doubt some are bought and paid for to threaten Ajit Pai's life, but I read enough of these people. This is genuine. They are genuinely exercised by this. They are losing their minds over it because they think they're going to lose it. And it is their air and water to them. And if you've got to really try to understand it from that perspective. Here is Joe in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Great to have you, Joe. How are you doing?
Excellent, Rush. This is so cool. Thanks. I have a point that I would like to make. My buddy Tom and I get together every Saturday morning to do our sculpting session. for 3 hours, and we talk politics. And I tell you what, one of the things that we agree on, we both listen to you through the week.
Absolutely, sure.
But our observation is that even if you don't really understand what President Trump is doing, he knows what he's doing. It just seems like that's what it always amounts to based on the success that...
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Because the bottom line, even you watch Trump, and if it doesn't make any sense, eventually it does. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
And I think, that's true. I think that's a pretty good observation. And a lot of people have trouble with it because they're plugging Trump in to an existing model or holes is the saying, square peg round hole and so forth. But they're plugging him into the wrong system. They're trying to take Trump as who he is and plug him into their system. And of course, it's never going to work when they do that. And they're never going to understand it. And of course, they're not patient enough to wait. But if you look at the things that have happened since Trump has been president, in just 1 year, look at the massive improvements over the Obama 8 years. And yet there are still people who say Trump doesn't know what he's doing. And yet the truth on the ground is he obviously knows what he's doing. He couldn't be where he is if he didn't know what he was doing.
Exactly. I'd be willing to bet that within a very short period of time, we're going to understand exactly what he wants us to know about what went on in that meeting.
Probably. That's your theory, that eventually all will become clear.
Exactly.
What do you and your buddy sculpt?
I have actually done Ronald Reagan and Lincoln.
You do busts.
Like Tesla. Yeah, exactly.
Busts,
exactly.
Okay. Well, some sculptors do different things, and I just wanted to get an idea what you guys are sculpting.
That's my fun time of the week, and so we do art and we talk politics and we see eye to eye, especially because we listen to you through the week and we get to discuss what you talk about through the week. So it's great.
Right, it's the glue. It's the glue. It provides you the consistency with which to sculpt and discuss. At the same time. No, that actually is a good observation. That's a good way of putting it. That you watch, even some of Trump's supporters, they watch and it doesn't make any sense, but at some point it does. It works out. It ends up working as you hoped it would or thought it would. And even then, you might say, I don't know how he got there, but he did. And I think that's part of the everybody thinks of Trump as this egomaniacal, attention-demanding narcissist, that he's one of these people that demands to be noticed and demands to be revered and loved and have people fawn all over him. And I know it looks that way. And I know that he comes off as, like his statement today, Mr. Trump, what did you think of the meeting yesterday? Well, I got a couple of congratulatory notes from the meeting. They were really happy until their bosses bitched at them 2 hours later. But the ratings are through the roof, man. And it was just great. And he said, what? You had a full hour meeting on immigration and your reaction to, and then at the very end of it, like he always did, during the campaign, I told everybody every day, if you listen carefully, it may go by in 30 seconds or a minute, but you get the genuinely sincere Donald Trump, where he thanks the people in that audience and lets them know he deeply appreciates their showing up and that he considers it an honor for them to be there. And in every Trump public appearance, you get that somewhere in the middle of it or at the end. You're going to get 30 seconds or a minute. In today's case, we got a minute of Trump running on about how great a meeting it was and how the media was congratulating him, sent 2 congratulatory notes, and how media needs him. They'll never want anybody else to beat him because the media needs him for his ratings. And in the last 20 seconds of that meeting, before he kicked the cameras out, this is today, not yesterday, he spelled out what his immigration requirements are. And they were everything they've always been. A wall, an end to chain migration, an end to this visa lottery, and overall border security, and something to do with the DACA kids. And it took maybe 20 seconds for him to mention it. It was at the very end after he'd had yucks and fun. And to the people watching who saw it, they were reassured and were told by virtue of that whatever happened in that meeting yesterday was not what they should have paid attention to, but what he said in the last 30 seconds of the thing today. The last 30 seconds of his public speaking before he went to the private cabinet meeting today was where he told everybody what his immigration plans are, and they haven't changed. They were exactly what he stated they were during the campaign. And he stated it as though that's what was established in the meeting yesterday. Of course, everybody watching it says, no, that was not established. You appeared to get rolled yesterday. But he didn't. So this narcissism and this demand to be adored and revered and all that, there's a part of me that thinks a lot of that is technique that is designed to distract people while he's actually doing an end run trying to get done what he wants to get done. I don't care if he's negotiating to build a building or prices for pipes in a new building or what have you. But I do know that the vast majority of people in Washington don't have a prayer in understanding it. Doug in Traverse City, Michigan. I'm glad you waited, sir. Welcome to our program.
Hey, thank you, Rush. First, I'd like to say a mega dittos from my mom and dad, who have been married for over 60 years and have been lifelong listeners of your show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the first MAGA dittos I've had in a while.
Yes, sir.
Make America Great dittos is what that is. And
that's right.
Not mega, but he said MAGA. Make America Great Again.
That's right.
That's right. I caught it. Even though I'm deaf, I caught it.
Anyway, I was calling in about the net neutrality topic you brought up. A lot of online alternative media played a huge part of Trump's success in getting elected, especially YouTube. YouTube, you can watch different personalities. They start up their own channel as they get more views and popular.
You know who has one of the best YouTube channels going out there? Juju Smith-Schuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Really?
This guy is great. This guy is a comedian. This guy, he did a bit. He dressed up as a phony TV news anchor, and he went around Pittsburgh as a phony news reporter with a wig and everything, asking people what they thought of the hit on Vontaze Burfict of the Cincinnati Bengals or anything to do with the It's pretty good. The kid's 20 years old, 21 years old. It's hilarious. But you're right. YouTube channels have been populated by a lot of great young conservative people.
Well, the issue that there's been retribution on YouTube, though, for those conservative voices.
Exactly.
They started pulling episodes. They started demonetizing, which means they're pulling advertising dollars
after net neutrality was implemented. Right. After Obama, that's when that began. Exactly right. That guy that got fired at Google has sued Google, a massive class action lawsuit. Do you know what this guy is alleging in his lawsuit? That Google almost put conservatives on trial in Google just for their thoughts. This is incredible. I've had it ready to go here for a couple of days and didn't get to, so I guess I've committed myself to mentioning it tomorrow, which I'll have to do because there's no more time left today. All right, confirming the new upgraded RushLimbaugh.com app is live and ready to go on Android at the Google Play Store. So upgraded today for both iOS and Android. And folks, it's great. It's fabulous. It's a much needed upgrade and just looks awesome. RushLimbaugh.com app, the App Store.